Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing great out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great week out there so far. Here to bring you the latest on many things in this morning's video. And of course, the first thing we'll cover is the tropics, as we do have a strengthening tropical storm out here in the Caribbean this morning. In fact, by the time some of you folks watch this may be a hurricane. The name is Rafael, and we're going to speak on this. We're going to talk about what's going on with this system right now, go over the latest from the National Hurricane Center, all the model guidance that we have from overnight into this morning, and then we'll talk about the environment background that could support at least a moderate pace of strengthening between now and the next couple days. Could this reach a Category 2 hurricane? It very well could. And we'll speak on that. We'll talk about steering currents, try to figure out where this system is going. As I do think eventually it will get into the Gulf of Mexico. After we get done doing that, we'll talk about what's going to happen weather-wise across the entire lower 48 to a 4-year day. We'll even extend it past today in some areas of the country, especially out west, as I do think it's going to get quite wintry across the Rockies over the next few to several days, as pretty much winter is out west, and it kind of feels like, late summer, early fall across the eastern U.S. is pretty wild. It just seems like there's no end in sight. When is fall going to come back? Heck, we're in November. When is winter going to start showing its face? So pretty wild stuff. We're just in a stubborn pattern in the eastern U.S. We'll speak a little bit about all of that. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. And just a quick reminder, folks, there's timestamps up in my videos. Saw a lot of comments and yesterday morning's video. It wasn't a lot, just a few, just saying, your videos are way too long, this, that, and the other. And it's only that 1%, right? 99% of people probably don't mind. But just a reminder, folks, before you comment saying how much it annoys you, just take the time to actually look at the video. There's timestamps up. Jump ahead to certain portions of the video you want to watch. And I promise you, you will at least get the majority of the information you are seeking. I don't know how people only spend 8 to 10 minutes talking about the weather when there's a lot going on. When there's not a lot going on, I get it. But if you just want 60 seconds of weather, just stick to your local people, stick to your weather apps. You'll probably get everything you want to know there. We get very detailed on this channel. So with that being said, let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So let's make sure this is going to work for us. And it is. So this is Rafael. This is a healthy looking tropical storm. It has the spin ongoing. You can tell it's well on its way to becoming a stronger tropical system. And that's exactly what it's doing right now. It is strengthening. Let me know what you're seeing in Jamaica. I know I got some people tuning in from that area, but you guys look to be getting a lot of heavy shower and storm activity. I'm sure you're getting some gusty winds, and you just flat out have a strengthening tropical system cruising to your south, southwest, and eventually the center of the storm will most likely go to your west, most likely. And then we're expecting this to continue to kind of move in this general direction. Will continue to strengthen. The sea surface temperatures in this area, are about in the 80s, and then this will most likely get into this region. Is it going to kind of go like this? Will it go kind of like that? Or will it kind of just get a little bit closer to maybe the panhandle of Florida or just the Gulf coastline? That's a big question, but this system as of right now is pretty healthy for a tropical storm, and I think by the time we get into this evening, this will be a hurricane more than likely, but definitely a pretty healthy tropical storm right now. So let's continue to move forward here. The latest from the National Hurricane Center has this at I believe it's a 60 mile per hour tropical storm. Let's see. Yes, 60 mile per hour tropical storm. By the time some of you folks watch this will be a 65, 70 mile per hour tropical storm. Heck, it might be a hurricane. But this is Zoom Earth, excellent site to use. It's free to you guys as the public. You don't have to pay a dime for it. But let's go on and zoom into this. Obviously, Jamaica under tropical storm warnings. I wonder if they will upgrade this to a hurricane warning in the short term, but I doubt it. But forecast to become a 70 mile per hour tropical storm sometime this afternoon. The Cayman Islands, you guys have hurricane warnings, as this will most likely strengthen into a hurricane right over you guys sometime tonight. We'll strengthen into a hurricane most likely tonight. 1 a.m. Wednesday has this 80 mile per hour Category 1 hurricane, and then has this getting to a 90 mile per hour high-end Category 1 hurricane by tomorrow afternoon. Okay, we got hurricane warnings up for Cuba, basically the entire western half of Cuba, even tropical storm warnings up for the central areas of Cuba, and even tropical storm watches up for areas of kind of like the east central areas of Cuba. So it tells you that this wind field is going to be quite broad. In fact, so broad that you have tropical storm watches up for the Florida Keys. So the winds are going to extend. Remember, this isn't the impact zone. This is the path of where the center of the storm can go. But still expected to be a 90-mile-per-hour Category 1 hurricane by 1 a.m. Thursday. And folks, the peak intensity could increase. In fact, last night it was 100-mile-per-hour Category 2 hurricane is what they had the peak intensity at. They actually dropped it overnight. It could go back up. Listen, we know that these systems can do some wild things in warm waters, especially when the upper wind pattern supports it. But by the time we get into Thursday afternoon, still at a 90-mile-per-hour Category 1 hurricane, could begin to weaken as we get into Thursday night and Friday. And let's just go on and go to the end of this. By 1 a.m. Sunday, we're still talking about this. Still might be a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm. But you notice the cone is all the way up here. And folks, before you freak out in the Gulf coastline, the waters in the northern Gulf of Mexico are very cool. That mixed with the fact that whatever tropical system can get up here is going to have to encounter a lot of wind shear, which is going to allow for a lot of dry air into this system. So that's the latest, and here's the actual traditional cone you guys might be used to seeing. And here it is, red hurricane warnings and 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm moving northwest at 13 miles per hour. So what is the actual millibar of the system? This is important when you're going over all the model guides. It's a 993 millibar low as of the 4 a.m. update. We'll have another update here in the next 30 to 45 minutes. It could be even deeper. We'll have to see. But as of the 4 a.m. update, it's a 993 millibar low. So just kind of remember that in your head, 993. The GFS initializing this is a 996, so a little bit weaker. The higher that number in millibars, the weaker the storm. The lower, the stronger the storm. Hence the name low pressure, right? So you continue to move this forward here. The GFS has had a stronger scenario all along, and I can tell you the GFS has done well this hurricane season. The Euro has done pretty bad when it comes to the strength of these systems. But as you can tell, the number steadily drops, 987 this evening. Okay, goes right through the Cayman Islands, and then by the time it gets to the southern western shorelines of Cuba, this is a strengthening hurricane, and it could hit western Cuba, folks, as a Category 2 hurricane. Right now, max intensity is a 90-mile-per-hour Category 1. What I want you to notice is this slew of moisture starting to get into Florida, Georgia. That's something we need to watch. Could be a lot of locally heavy rainfall in Georgia and areas of South Carolina. But I mean, as we're starting to get into Thursday morning, still a 981 hurricane, okay? Starting to creep closer to the Gulf coastline, but then it starts to take more of an east to west path, and it's weakening. As you can tell, that number's beginning to rise, which indicates weakening. And then by the time, we get into Saturday morning, we have a tropical system that's pretty much getting shredded apart by shear and dry air. But it does make a technical landfall into the Gulf Coast sometime Saturday afternoon. But it does. The good news is it looks like it's going to weaken at a pretty moderate to fast pace out here in the northern Gulf of Mexico. We just have to watch. That's the latest GFS. I'm not even going to really go over the Euro AI model because I just don't think they're handling the system very well strength-wise. If we're talking about track-wise, it doesn't do much different than what the GFS just shows. So we're going to go on and just jump right to the HF A and B model, which I like, which is the two hurricane models they're going to end up sticking with. Okay, let me know what you're actually seeing in Jamaica, but based off this model, it looks like you guys are getting hit by some nasty outer bands. Now, this is the center of the storm. It's initializing as a 990, and it could be that right now. But remember, right now it's saying it's a 993, so it's not that far off, just a few millibars. So watch as this number kind of remains steady throughout the morning. By the time we get into about early afternoon, it drops to a 982, okay, 977. All right, starts to go through the Cayman Islands. Is it going to get closer to Grand Cayman or the smaller islands of the Cayman Islands? We're not quite sure, but either way, I mean, you guys are going to get hurricane force conditions and a strengthening tropical system rumbling through your area this evening. I mean, you guys are going to get hit pretty good, okay? Praying for you folks for sure. And then we get into Wednesday morning, 24 hours from now. It's saying it's going to get down to a 962 millibar low. That would definitely be a Category 2 hurricane, and it goes right into Cuba. What's interesting to me, watch how right here it goes from a 962 Wednesday morning to a 949. Okay, that's getting close to Category 3 status, right? So this thing is a very strong hurricane at this point. But watch how it goes from a 949 to a 958. You wonder, well, why does that happen? Why does it weaken before it even makes landfall? Well, I'm going to show you here in a second. The sea surface temperatures right here in this area, just south of Cuba, which are typically very warm, are actually cooler. So I think it has a combination. I think it has to do with that, and a combination with probably the outer cyclonic flow of the system interacting with some higher terrain in Cuba. Okay, it is kind of around land at this point, but still, what hit western Cuba is a powerful hurricane. And it's wild. We don't get a lot out of this area of Cuba. I remember when Ian hit this area, and we didn't hear hardly anything from this area. I don't know much about western Cuba. Maybe some people in the comments can say a couple things, but we didn't hardly get any footage out of this area. We didn't get hardly anything. So it tells me that, I'm not sure, but I hope you guys are ready. If you're tuning in from western Cuba, definitely let me know. I would love to know. I don't think I've ever seen a comment from someone saying they're tuning in from Cuba. Okay, so this goes right over Cuba. Could re-strengthen as we're getting into like Thursday morning a little bit, as the sea surface temperatures north of Cuba are still pretty warm. But this thing kind of hangs tight in the central Gulf. It's right in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico at this point. And, it's still pretty strong. It's a hurricane. We get all the way into, let's say, Friday evening, and this is as far out as this model will go right now. And it looks like it's still a pretty strong storm system, but it looks like the structure of the storm is definitely being kind of shredded apart with dry air hitting the western side of the storm. Now, what about the HFB model, which does go all the way out to 111 hours, which is good. Initializing this pretty well, about 1 millibar off, has a steady pace of strengthening over the next 24 hours. It goes right through the Cayman Islands. It actually gets closer now to the smaller islands of the Cayman Islands, and instead of like Grand Cayman, which is what it was showing really yesterday. And same thing, strengthens this at a pretty steady pace. We get all the way into like Wednesday midday tomorrow. It's a 965. I would say that's a Category 2 hurricane. And I really do think there's an opportunity they'll bump up the peak intensity of this. I really do, back up to a Category 2 hurricane. And then pretty much holds steady, makes landfall pretty much exactly where the HFA is showing. And as a Category 2 hurricane, then gets back off the northern coastline of Cuba, and definitely weakens because of land interaction. And then could it strengthen again? Like I said, I do think it will have an opportunity to strengthen a little bit more in the southern Gulf of Mexico. But what happens once it gets out into the central Gulf? Steady weakening. The HFB really shows a weakening trend here. And it just flat out, it looks like, for the most part, it looks like it just kind of gets weird. It looks like it heads north here. And then eventually does make a landfall as just a shredded apart tropical system sometime Saturday, maybe into the southeastern portions of Louisiana. But I really think this thing will be pretty depleted once it gets this far north in the Gulf. But here's the sea surface temperatures, folks. 29, 30 degrees Celsius, low to mid 80s in Fahrenheit. But there's that little pocket right here, right where Rafael could go. Here's south of Cuba. I mean, you got this little pocket of sea surface temperatures around maybe 80, heck, maybe in the upper 70s. A little pocket of cooler air, which is interesting. But north of western Cuba, 28 to 29 degrees Celsius waters, equivalent to just about the low 80s, 80 degrees or so. So that's why it could re-strengthen kind of off the northern western coastline of Cuba in a couple days. Okay, so that's something to watch for. But right now, I mean, it's working with sea surface temperatures in the 80s. I know this is saying 29, 30, but this is in Celsius. So it's definitely got warm waters right now. What about the upper wind pattern? These are winds at about 35, 40,000 feet up in the air, so above the actual cyclonic flow of the system. So let's draw on this. The system in the low to mid levels is spinning like this, right? That's a terrible arrow. Goodness. Like this. Not much better. Okay? But above this storm, you see these lines with the arrowheads embedded into them? Air is being kind of dispersed outward. It's kind of going like this. Kind of going like that. Like that. Right here, it's kind of being dispersed away. Gets kind of weird down here, but for the most part, air is being pushed out away from the low to mid-level circulation of the system, all right? So air rises through the middle of the system, and then it gets pushed away. This kind of opens up more atmosphere, if you will, for more air to rise. And if the atmosphere continues to be like this in the upper levels of the atmosphere, then it just allows for a continuous cycle of rising air. And what do we know about rising air? If you don't know about it, rising air allows for shower and storm activity. Shower and storm activity allows for a moist environment. So what I'm trying to say is this system has an environment that favors a moist environment. If it has a moist environment, it's going to have an opportunity to strengthen. And if the structure can improve, then it could rapidly intensify. But of course, it's just, a step-by-step process with these tropical systems, much like, many things in life. But you continue to move forward here, and the system continues to have a favorable upper wind pattern. In fact, I would argue it gets even better once we get, like, tomorrow morning. I mean, you look at the environment at this point, in the wee hours of the morning tomorrow morning, air is rapidly getting dispersed outward from this system. This could actually allow for an avenue of moisture to get slung all the way up into the southeast. Okay, air is being kind of pushed away, a little bit of almost an anticyclonic flow on top of the system. But we do have a little air working against the system right into here, but just a lot of air being dispersed outward from the system. So still very favorable for rising air. And I don't want to push that. And we continue to move forward here. And then we get right here, and there's still a decently favorable environment in the upper levels of the atmosphere. But once we get right about kind of into here, you're starting to get some westerly shear that's working against the system right here. Yeah, it's just not as favorable anymore. It looks a little bit different here. It looks like it almost works in favor with the system, but for the most part, you start to get a lot of flow from the west pushing against the western side of the system right here. This is going to eat away at the convection on the western side of the system and allow for dry air to get in and really mess up this system, especially as it gets right here. See how the flow is working right up against the system? Okay, that's some stout westerly flow working against the system. That means it's probably going to weaken. Okay, and then you look at the moisture. Like I said, environment right now favors a lot of rising air. So what do? You get a lot of green. You get a lot of moist air. This is all dry air in the brown. And you continue to get that right here. And you remember how I was showing you? Let's go back to right here. Let's go all the way to right here. You see all these arrows right here? This is for like Wednesday morning. These arrows are kind of shooting this way. Okay, this is creating an environment for rising air, a lot of air being dispersed outward. So you look at this area right here, okay, and then you kind of go back and you look at this. Look how you're getting this slingshot of moisture all the way into the southeast. So I don't know about you guys in Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, but I finally broke my rainless streak overnight last night. Got about 7/100ths of an inch of rain. But, I mean, we'll take it. We broke a 39-day stretch of no rain. And it looks like we're going to continue to get more rain. And that's just because we're getting a lot of moisture getting pulled northward from the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico and just from Rafael in general. But watch as this dry air starts to get closer to the western side of the system. Right here. This thing almost gets fully wrapped in dry air at this point. And that is because it gets hit by that westerly flow and then it just completely gets shredded apart as it moves into the northern Gulf of Mexico. So for anybody, freaking out in the Gulf coastline, I really wouldn't, guys. This thing might look scary once it comes off Cuba and you're thinking, oh no, here we go again. But the atmosphere does, and just sea surface temperatures do not support a strengthening system or a maintaining strength of a system upon approach to the Gulf coastline. So anyways, moving forward here, looking at what's going on weather-wise across the entire lower 48 for today. We got basically a ton of rain falling from eastern Texas through Arkansas, Missouri, all the way up through Illinois, all the way into the Great Lakes region. Definitely a rainy start to your Tuesday. And we got this little upper low feature here bringing a lot of rain also to areas of Iowa and Nebraska. And then we got this little area of rain working its way into South Carolina. You see this little rain here? Some of this is hitting the ground and it's adding up. So, it was nice to go to the gym this morning and see puddles on the road for the first time in what seems like a decade. But Yeah, it's nice to see. And then we got a lot of energy working into the northern Rockies. Folks, we're going to get a big winter storm across the central Rockies. We could even get our first decent measurable snow into Denver over the next couple of days. And we'll try to speak on that in this video. But as far as watches, warnings, and advisories, there's a lot going on. We got the flood watches, flash flood warnings ongoing right now across, areas of the Mississippi Valley. We got some dense fog across the mid-Atlantic. Winter weather advisories in the purple, winter storm warnings in the pink, blizzard warnings ongoing in the highest elevations of Montana. We got high wind watches and warnings in southeast Wyoming, which is always a hot spot. Bighorn Mountains, winter storm warnings, the Rockies, winter weather advisories, even some winter storm watches. But we could get a big winter storm in New Mexico, folks. Just kind of a favorable setup for you folks. This could ooze into some counties in Oklahoma and Texas too. But it's very dry. And California, we need to get some rain here, some systems to hit you guys. But we got red flag warnings there. But the look at excessive rainfall for today. If you live in this yellow area, it's the area we need to really watch for today. We have a slight risk of excessive rainfall, which means we have at least a 15% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance. All the way from Lake Providence all the way up to Louisville. This includes Evansville. This includes Memphis, Jackson, Clarksville, Hopkinsville, Paducah, Madisonville, a lot of villes, Clarksdale. You guys need to watch out for excessive rainfall today. And then we look at the risk of severe weather. We got to watch down here in Louisiana into the Delta region, even areas of like Beaumont, Texas. We have a level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather. Some gusty winds. Let's see what the tornado outlook looks like. Yeah, you got a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. So the tornado threat is not non-existent. And then we look up here. There is a risk of severe weather up here in Wisconsin too. Madison, almost up the Rhinelander. I think that's how you pronounce it. Appleton, you guys have a marginal risk right into here. So be aware of some severe weather in this area. But talking about the southeast first, if you look at South Carolina, even into North Carolina, we're going to continue to just get this on and off shower activity, maybe a rumble of thunder, maybe some heavy rain in some of these pockets. You'd love to see this, and we can get some showers that could be on the increase. Thunderstorms also in the southern half of Florida. And then we're going to watch this broken line of showers and storms that tries to survive east of the Mississippi River. It could get going again later this evening into the overnight hours. So, western Tennessee into western Mississippi, western Kentucky, even all the way up into southern Indiana. You guys could get a lot of rain overnight as this becomes more just southwest and northeast. It doesn't really have much of a west to east push to it. Then we're waking up tomorrow morning with moisture, even more moisture on the increase to the southeast. So if we're looking how much rain could fall over the next 24 hours, check it out. Central South Carolina, maybe a 1/4 inch. It's my house. And some areas in the mountains could get a 1/4 inch, maybe up here closer to Boone, maybe a 1/2 inch. I wouldn't be over concerned. I don't think this is all going to fall at once. Even if 1/2 inch of rain fell at once, I don't think it would do too much damage. But don't freak out with this rain. Even looking at the next 2 days, it looks like the majority of this rain is going to be down here. We could get a lot of rain down here in Georgia. So this is really for tomorrow. And let's see if we can look at a multi-day look at this. This is between now and the next 3 days. So a lot of rain will have an opportunity to fall in Georgia, the low country of South Carolina, anywhere from 3 to 4 inches. Up here to Columbia, 2.5, Augusta, 3. So definitely this kind of one kind of micro area, local area that's going to get a lot of rain for sure. So the Northeast, just some scattered showers in the interior New England area. Once we get into this afternoon, this evening, not a whole lot. Northern Maine, maybe some showers. It's been pretty quiet up here too. Typically we start to flirt with some lake effect snow this time of the year, but there's just been no cold air. Nothing. The eastern U.S., it feels like we went backwards as far as the season changing. It's pretty ridiculous. I've actually just kind of got used to the fact of waking up to temperatures in like the 60s. Excuse me. Thank y'all. I just kind of gotten used to waking up the temperatures in the 60s again here in the eastern U.S. It actually is pretty comfortable, but I'm certainly ready for some cooler weather. I need something to really motivate me to get the Christmas stuff out. I think we're going to do it this weekend regardless. But the south central U.S., this line of storms working through this morning, they could get going again, could have a little bit more juice in the atmosphere down here in Louisiana for these to be severe. So definitely be aware in Louisiana for this, getting into western Mississippi, and then they could like refire overnight. So definitely be aware of this, and then check out the little bit of snow breaking out across Colorado, southeastern Colorado, even some snow breaking out in the wee hours of the morning in western Kansas. It's very possible. Let me know if you're tuning in from that area in western Kansas. Even in Colorado, New Mexico, even extreme western panhandle of Oklahoma, I would love to see some pictures. Folks, please tag me in pictures. I need to continuously remind you of that. I want to get in the habit of like sharing my pictures on Facebook and social media, so especially if it's something that's like abnormal that's happening. I mean, that works even the best. But definitely let me know if you're seeing the snow tomorrow morning across western Kansas for sure. But a closer look at Louisiana. Here's those storms making their way through. They could weaken this morning and then refire up this afternoon. This is around 5 p.m. Storms could refire up even more, like closer to midnight. Look at these storms, even up into closer to Jackson, western Mississippi. Could get a spin up or two, could get some flash flooding. So just be aware of this, especially as we get into this evening, to the overnight hours. And then the north central U.S., a lot of rain pushing through the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes region. It's pretty much, this is around 4 p.m. Look at all this rain falling in Illinois, Wisconsin, could be heavy. UP and Michigan, this is just rain. No snow with this at all. It's good old-fashioned rain, just no cold air to be found in this area. When we get into this evening, a lot of rain making its way through Wisconsin. It's moving out of Wisconsin, moving into all portions of Michigan. And then by the time we wake up tomorrow morning, things begin to calm down somewhat. So rainfall between now and the next 24 hours. I think one thing we need to get weather-wise maybe on is kind of highlighting the outline of these states a little bit better. But this is a phenomenal site to use, folks. But a lot of rain's going to fall in Illinois, Chicago, about a half an inch. Northern sections of Wisconsin, the UP and Michigan certainly could get more rain up here. But definitely find your area. That's how much rain you could get. And then the western U.S., a lot of energy moving over the Rockies. And then it gets all the way down to the Rockies of like Colorado, Utah. And then we start to get into the overnight hours. Look at all this heavy snow falling across Montana. Rain tries to switch to snow, and even in the far western counties of North Dakota. Look at all the snow falling in the plains of Montana, of eastern Montana. And then we're waking up tomorrow morning to the potential for a big winter storm cranking up across areas of Colorado and northern New Mexico. And then we take it all the way into tomorrow. Look at that heavy snow falling across northern New Mexico, southern Colorado. Man, it could really get going. And I mean, this snow even tries to start breaking out across the western counties of Texas overnight tomorrow night. So, just a closer look at like the northern plains. Here comes this big area of energy. Could be some brief blizzard conditions across Montana overnight tonight. Not going to add up to much because this energy kind of moves in and out so fast. But this is around like 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. The North Dakota-Montana border, if you live in this area, let me know. Send some pictures. Snowing like crazy. Could wake up to a good coating of snow on the ground. And this continues all the way into tomorrow. And, same thing. We kind of go down to, let's go down to Colorado and check out this area down here. Look at this, and, we're getting into this evening, getting into the overnight hours. Look at this heavy snow. Even around Goodland. Some pretty heavy snow falling in this area of Colorado. And then it really cranks up tomorrow morning across southern Colorado. Like I said, northern sections of New Mexico. Look at the rain trying to switch to snow, and even in the far western county of Oklahoma. So definitely a lot of snow, and this is what it looks like between now and just the next 24 hours. This is between now and like the next. This is all between now and all the way through basically Friday morning. Look at this snow down here, folks. That is a lot of snow forecasted for this area for this time of the year. You take a closer look here, and hopefully you know where you are on the map because it doesn't label the cities, but look at southern Colorado outside of the Rockies, folks. Over a foot of snow predicted. That's a lot. I'm actually a little shocked at how much snow they're calling for. And we'll try to show you some images with some city names, town names here in the coming videos, but this is a lot of snow forecasted for this area. So If you live in like northern, northeastern, and southern, southeastern Colorado, big winter storm coming, early season winter storm. Temperatures warm across the east. I mean, no change with that. I mean, 70s, even some 80s, all the way up into West Virginia, Ohio. 70s. I mean, even into the interior New England area, could break some record highs. Warm across the deep south, the middle of the country. I mean, it's cool, but nothing unheard of for this time of the year. And it's chilly across the Rockies, but nothing too crazy. But folks, that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and y'all have a wonderful day. Talk to you again soon.